Welcome to Clicks and Bricks Podcast. We talk about the entrepreneur mindset.
If you get one shot at this, what kind of shot are you going to take?
If we forget who we are, they're going to forget who you are.
You've got an adversity story that's out of this world.
Everything from that Main Street brick and mortar to that billion-dollar manufacturer.
Welcome back to Clicks and Bricks. Today I'm with Adam Goldman. He is with franchisecoach.net. He's the founder. Adam, thank you for joining us today. How are you doing?
Doing great, Ken. How are you doing today?
I am fantastic. I am living my dream, actually. Before we jump into the questions, can you just tell the audience a little bit about who is Adam Goldman and what pushed you to starting franchisecoach.net?
So look, if someone were to describe who I am, I'm a guy that never really fit into corporate America. In fact, I kind of take as a badge of honor, I never really had a corporate job, right? So when I graduated from high school or from college, instead of getting I went to undergrad in Illinois, decided to kind of go to Eastern Europe right after the wall fell and just kind of I had too much street cred for someone that was 22 years old just because I was American in Eastern Europe in the early 90s. And when I graduated from business school, instead of going through traditional recruiting, I had my own business that was already running in IT and technology. So what I would say is that I've had a lot of success. One of my biggest Achilles heels in my work career is I've never been great at creating process, been really good at following it, Ken. And so in 2010, I'm aging myself here. I decided that I actually looked at different franchise brands and I thought that franchising was about McDonald's and French fries and flipping burgers in the back. And I didn't realize that there's just a whole world of franchising. And I decided to invest in an office cleaning master franchise. And I owned that for 8 years. And fast forward to 2018, one of the people that owned a Vanguard Cleaning that was my neighbor decided to give me an unsolicited offer to purchase my Vanguard Cleaning master franchise in Houston, Texas. And what I've been doing, I started this part-time. Now I'm in my 8th year of doing this, is I'm really helping people in order to fulfill their dreams through business ownership of franchising. I'm a matchmaker. What Franchise Coach does is that we help people that know nothing about the franchising world. It's a free service for them. And we matchmake them almost like a marriage. With dating, we connect them with 3 brands in a personalized service that are a good fit for them. And I really love my role of changing lives.
I love it. So you said something, and I want to dump into some of this terminology just so that the audience kind of knows what some of the different terminology is. But you said master franchise. Can you explain that to the audience? Because I think I've heard it master franchise. I've also heard of buying, I think, territories. Some franchisors or use that terminology. So can you explain the difference between a master franchise and a franchise?
Let's kind of go through like the most common terminology in the franchising world, right?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Franchisor is like the head office, right? The person that's offering franchises. So for instance, McDonald's corporate is a franchisor. Domino's, Orange Theory, Fitness, a franchisor. A franchisee is someone that buys into a system, buys a brand and a territory and a system, right? Typically a territory where you say, I want to be the franchisee in St. Louis, Missouri for Domino's Pizza, right? Just as an example. They're a franchisee. Master franchisor is someone that actually buys the rights to a territory. Sometimes we call it an area developer. And they're actually in charge of getting franchisees inside of that specific geography. So I was a master franchisor for the Houston market for Vanguard Cleaning.
Right. So something that I talk about a lot that I've learned across my journey, and I'm not sure where you're at on what side of the horse you're on, or if you straddle both sides, but for a franchisor, it is a separate business model from the franchisee. They're 2 completely separate businesses with different business models across the board. And I see a lot of people that have a really great model, fast casual restaurant, fitness model, that try to go into franchising and just kind of flop because they think, oh, running my business is one thing. I can just, sell my concept to somebody and they'll run with it. But what they find out really quickly is that that's a whole nother business and you need a whole staff to support that business. And I would just love to hear your thoughts about that and some warnings or some advice for those kinds of people that are thinking that along those lines.
Okay, so Ken, let's kind of backtrack because you said a franchisor is a different model than a franchisee. think what you're trying to say is that becoming a franchisor is different than being a regular business owner. So let's
Correct.
talk about an example where you have an amazing business. Let's say that it's some sort of a restaurant, or even like this business that just kind of, in high school, I moved to Cincinnati, Ohio, right? And they have this amazing local business where they have a subscription flour service. Not flour for baking, but flour for like flour boxes, which is fascinating because Cincinnati's its own market in itself, right? They have Cincinnati chili, and they happen to have a subscription flour box service, right? So what your point is, it's a different skill set to be a great flower box operator than one that's a franchisor. You need dedicated staff. You need to understand how to support your franchisees, because it'd be the most amazing thing ever. But imagine if you have someone in Phoenix and they don't have a florist that could actually provide them with these cacti for this thing, which is different in Phoenix, so Arizona. So I totally agree with you about that. And that's why people tend to underestimate how hard it has become a franchisor. And let's also talk about, like, you might have the most amazing franchise concept in the world. Maybe it's Crumble Cookie or whatever that might be. But how's anyone even going to know about you? Because there's so many competitors out there. To actually just kind of market it is really challenging as well.
Yeah, it's a wild game. I love the business model behind it. I like thinking about the business strategies and all the different levers that you can kind of push and pull. Do you fall more on the side of, on a franchise coach? I think I can pretty quickly assimilate you with a franchise brokerage firm, right? And so you don't charge anything to the end user, and you help find the right franchise for them. Do you also help companies to become franchisors, or just help
I don't.
people find the
I do not.
franchises?
Just help people that are looking to have a pathway, typically to exit corporate America, a plan to exit corporate America, and to match them the right fit. I have brands that are pre-screened, Ken, in 75 industries, right? Many people think it's fast food and McDonald's. And I wanted to also say that I'm different than a broker in the following way. When I think of brokers, I think of things like a real estate broker. I think about things like a business broker, where they have a specific brand, a specific owner, and they're representing that owner and trying to find buyers and figure it out from there. I think of myself more as a matchmaker, right? I think that's the analogy, right? Where just trying to make this perfect fit. Frankly, from my point of view, I don't care if someone buys or not, but I do care if they do buy, that it's a good fit. And there are no guarantees, right? But I'm just looking to make that perfect match. And for me, the satisfaction is when I talk to my placements from even a couple years ago, and them telling me, oh my gosh, Adam, you changed my life. I live in Boise, Idaho, and I don't have any other. I used to be commuting 3 hours to go to my dead end job in Oregon from Idaho. And you've just changed my life. And I'm grateful for that. That's what gets me up in the morning.
I love it. That is the American dream in a lot of ways. To a lot of people, the American dream is to get your retirement pension plan for something, and they would buy a franchise and run it. You just keep saying perfect fit, perfect match. And I like that. And it's wildly important. If you're leaving corporate America, and obviously you need a paycheck and all those things, can you talk to the audience a little bit about the difference between buying a franchise as a strategic business move, or buying yourself a job?
So look, I mean, let's talk about the time commitment for franchise brands, because there's a spectrum, right? Just like anything in life. So Ken, I mean, we have things that are owner operator, where franchise brands will not allow you to actually become an owner if you have a day job, right? Those are specific brands. Let's talk about the other side. And a lot of times it might be husbands and wives that are just kind of, or partners that are just kind of going in together, and maybe they are both able to put in 20 hours per week, whatever it is. On this other side of the spectrum, we have things that are semi-absentee. And when I mean semi-absentee, I'm not talking about totally absentee like a mutual fund or index fund. More talking about something where you could potentially have a day job but do this on the side. So there's just kind of the spectrum, right? And it just depends. And just because something's on one end of the spectrum, meaning you got to put your blood, sweat, and tears into it at the beginning, that doesn't mean that in 1 year in that you don't necessarily have to be like that. But it's important to kind of understand what the expectations are. And look, I don't necessarily have franchise brands where my candidates call me 1 month in or 3 months in and say, look, Adam, I just want to let you know that this really isn't taking as much time as I thought.
Yeah, it is always going to be more time than you expected. The franchisor is going to, I mean, they have a job to do, and that job is to sell franchises.
Absolutely.
Right. That's their job. And they're intoxicating, and they're damn good at it. right?
Yep, absolutely.
They're really good at it. It is my advice to listen to them as much as you possibly can. There's some horror stories of franchises that kind of gone sideways over the years, but there's also a lot of great franchises. I think somebody's out there watching and they're thinking, man, I'd really love to start a business, but I'm never going to have $300,000 or even $30,000 to start a business. What on the very low side, right? We're talking somebody that, just really has some desire to run their own business. What's the lowest amount of money that somebody could have to get into a franchise?
Let's give an example, right? I have an amazing business. I'm not going to give a specific brand, but I love this business on the low end. I saw this and I was kind of blown away. I believe there's money in muck, right? And so could you imagine this? I mean, I don't know if are you a dog owner?
I am.
Okay. How many dogs do you have?
At the time, one.
Okay. Got it. Would you pay someone else to scoop up the poop from your lawn?
Well, it's supposed to be my daughter's job. So yes, we do.
But would you pay someone else to do it?
Yeah, because my daughter doesn't.
She doesn't do it.
She doesn't do it.
Exactly. So I mean, there is a dog poop scooping franchise out there right now, and you could imagine how inexpensive it is to do that. We're talking about $100K all in, right? I just think it's an amazing business. It's subscription based. That's just an example of something on the low end.
I've studied this business model quite in depth, and I probably know the franchise that you're talking about. And I'm going to challenge you here on franchise. If you're talking about an aggressive young person that wants to start a franchise, or even somebody that's retired, and you're talking about picking up dog poop in a backyard or front yard for that matter, why would somebody need process from a company like that? Why couldn't they just buy a shovel and go do it?
That's interesting. You should mention that, right? Because people tend to underestimate the value of a process and a system, right? So let's say you got a shovel, right? Would you have a CRM system? Would you have like this whole delivery system or software that would optimize your route? If it's done correctly, the system is it. I mean, it's almost like the analogy, why don't I just kind of start in my backyard and start grilling hamburgers? That's just the same thing as McDonald's, right? The same reason why McDonald's has a system and McDonald's University also works for poop scooping in a perfect world.
And that particular, I don't know if it's the same franchise or not, but I know some of the tricks of that trade are taking a picture of the gate when it's locked and making sure that the owner gets the picture of that so that they know that their dog's safe, that you got spray on your shoes and your shovel so that you're not spreading disease from one yard to the next. Those kinds of details you get when you buy a franchise versus you're starting on your own. You got to uncover all of the problems. And trust me, there's going to be problems. Hopefully, if you've gone to a mature franchise, they've worked through a lot of those things for you already.
Ken, you're not even mentioning the network effect of having people in other markets that could kind of give you best practices. Let's talk about even more important, digital marketing, right? I mean, like even these days, like I'm getting leads now. People are coming to me and they say they found me on ChatGPT or they found me on Gemini. I mean, someone just off the street just starting with a shovel, that's not going to happen.
No, you're not going to find them. But if you're already dominating the national brand, percolating that down to the local brands is way easier. That's not even talking about earned media versus paid media. But typically, if you have a franchise, you're going to get some earned media because you're with the bigger brand, and earned media for a small brand is really challenging. Just the difference between paying for ads versus getting them for free from your local news department. Wonderful. I love it. Franchising is not for me. I tried it, right? I'm a little bit of outside the box. I'm not a rule follower. I'm a rule breaker. And this is why I can't work in a corporate job. Who is franchising for?
There's not really an avatar of one person, which is what I love most about my job, right? Let's talk about who is, right? Or who isn't.
That's probably better. I'm not. Yeah. I'm going to break the rules.
Yeah, exactly. You got to be the kind of person that's not going to be selling kebabs at McDonald's, right? And you got to be the kind of person that sees a value in following a system. It's a different type of entrepreneur, right? In Gerber's book about the E-Myth, he talks about how important it is to how the system is the most important thing. But what I can tell you is that the people that really succeed in franchising are ones that have some sort of business experience. And when they go through my process, when I talk about a fit, right? It's more kind of understanding about what their unique ability is, whether or not selling or operational excellence, or even from a cultural perspective as well, making a great culture. I mean, everyone's heard of the Chick-fil-A type culture. If you're not a certain fit for Chick-fil-A, it's not going to be a good fit for you.
No, not at all. Let's talk a little bit about, and this is probably way off topic for the audience, but you said Chick-fil-A. And Steak and Shake tried to do a very similar model
Yeah.
and wasn't nearly as successful. So like, how can somebody that's looking for a franchise, how can they look at those two things and say, man, that's pretty comparable. Which one should I move forward with? What things are they looking for to get a Chick-fil-A versus a Steak and Shake?
So I coach my candidates to spend the majority of their due diligence talking to franchisees and seeing what they have to say. And I even give them a list of questions to ask. Like you said, franchise development people are amazing salespeople, right? But the proof in the pudding is when you talk to other franchisees. Especially, don't call people in your home market because they might decide to scoop up your territory, but talk to people that are like you in markets like yours and see what they have to say, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And every single franchise brand has under, average, and overperformers. Find people like you that are overperformers in market like yours.
Markets like yours. And
so if you're in St. Louis, then talk to someone in Indianapolis, basically.
Right. And I think also a huge thing that I didn't realize in the beginning when I first started business, I started business internationally, oddly enough, and then I kind of migrated to some local businesses. Something I didn't realize is residency within of 10 square miles, depending on your business, right? If you got a brick and mortar, how many people are within 10 square miles of your business is a huge factor. And, people just don't seem to think of that. I bought a franchise and I did this after I bought it, and I should have done it before. I did 11 states and I drove and I just showed up at in 11 different states. I went to different franchises of my franchisor to talk to them and meet them and stuff like that. And it was a wonderful learning experience. And I couldn't agree with you more to have those conversations, because when you're going through that sales process of a franchise, it's intoxicating, man. They know how to throw parties. They know how to get your endorphins up. They know how to do all of those things. And I would say probably some of the best salesmen I've ever dealt with in my life, as far as you've already vetted the product, you want it, but they still go above and beyond in every single aspect of the deal. There's a lot to learn from those guys, for sure. Adam, you've built and scaled several companies, from an IT firm in Poland to a real estate investment venture in Texas, and ultimately a multi-million-dollar Vanguard Cleaning Area Developer. What common thread runs through all of those entrepreneurial leaps?
I would say it's just kind of an excitement for growth. Let's add franchise coach to that too, right? Just being excited about not really resting on your laurels. My business isn't the same as it is today, right? When I started Vanguard Cleaning in 2010, it wasn't the same as it was in 2018 to kind of embrace change, right? Because it's going to change no matter what. That's really, that's a kind of common thread, I would say.
It is going to change no matter what. And I'm going to go off my script here for a little bit because I wanted to ask you another question. I'm positive that you have people coming to you outside of retirement, or they want to leave the corporate America, and they tell you, I want the franchise is going to make me the most money.
Yeah.
What do you tell that person?
I say, great. Look, I get that sometimes, right? And I really want to dig into it, right? I ask people about how important status is for them, right? Because someone says, again, I believe there's money in muck. And if someone tells me I want to make the most money possible, but I'm not interested in a porta potty and dumpster business or anything like that, then that might be challenging, because those are the dirty businesses are the ones that make the most money.
Is that what money in the muck means?
There's money in muck, meaning there's money in crap.
If you can do something that nobody else wants to do, you can make money.
Yes, that's what I mean. Muck is a synonym to crap.
I love it. Yes, it's not untrue at all. If you can find anything that other people don't want to do, you can make money doing that thing. You just got to figure out how to do it quickly and efficiently.
I was looking about jobs. The title, I'm big into clickbait, was which jobs you can have that are better than a desk job. And one of them was crime scene cleanup, right? That's something no one wants to do. And that's actually a franchise. So here you go.
I have a cousin that runs one of those.
Okay.
She loves it. And she got to there a horrible incident in the family, and she had the stomach to do it, and then figured out, oh, I can make a lot of money doing this. And just, it's a phenomenal business, actually. But moving on to the next question, transitioning from building businesses to coaching is a big shift, right? You're running businesses, now you're coaching. That's a huge shift. What compelled you to become a franchisee coach, a franchise coach? And how did your own path inform that decision?
So Ken, I got to be blunt. It came by accident, right? So literally I had an unsolicited offer for my business, right? and it was a great offer. And I sold the business. And I'm like, okay, what am I going to do next? I literally signed a lease at WeWork, right? I had started this part-time, this role of being a coach and consultant. And what I realized is that when I put my time and effort and energy into it full time, not only that I really, really loved it, right? But this was a great business to be in and something that I really excelled at. And so I'm glad that I gave myself that opportunity. It just kind of, frankly, it was not particularly strategic to kind of do this full time. I kind of stumbled into it.
I love it. It's the best way to do it, I think. And what you're doing is you get paid on the back end, which is, I think, the funnest way to do business. Can you explain to the audience how you get, because you're doing this, it appears to be a free service to the person that comes to you, correct?
That's correct. So it's always a free service to potential franchisees or potential business owners. It's the franchise brand that pays me a commission if I make a successful match.
Right. So it's zero risk to start learning about the franchises that are available, what you can get into, what you can afford to get into versus all those other things. When somebody's coming to you, do you help them figure out the financial piece to execute the deal? Or do they need to come Daddy Warbucks ready?
So what a great question. Myself, I'm not a franchise finance expert, but I know plenty of people that are, and I make a referral to someone.
And that is just more back end, which is beautiful. In your experience, what makes a franchise system powerful enough to turn ordinary business people into extraordinary business people?
So it's not any one specific element. And I think that the thing about it is people tend to underestimate how important it is to have other people in the system, right? So that you like and that you can kind of rely upon. And as you become more of a seasoned franchisee, that becomes more and more important. I think the franchise brand is most important at the very beginning to kind of get you going. Things such as, hey, is there really a system? How many people do you have that are just kind of franchise success people at the head office? There's just so many different elements. But at the end of the day, you could have the most amazing franchise brand and culture, but if it's not a good business that's growing, then you probably shouldn't be in it. Right. So there's also, you got to be in the right business too.
Absolutely. You said something that reminded me of a phrase that I like is BBs, bullets, cannons. And in a system, I think what people don't realize is that how expensive testing is. If you've got a pathway, so just say, there's all these different systems inside your business, engagement, awareness, closing, like all those things. And when you buy into a program that works, it's been tested somewhere. They know that this system works. So if you follow it to a T, you'll have a percentage of conversion. But changing any single aspect of that risks reducing and increasing that percentage of close, right? So in a franchise system, they deploy testing at specific markets and then push that out to the rest of it. So what you're paying a lot for, they take a pretty big chunk of your money every month. But what you're paying is not just the system, but the testing of new systems as you move forward through business. Is that an accurate thought process?
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, great systems adapt and evolve, right? I mean, or else it's not going to work out. And I see brands that are changing with the times, which is great. And I see, frankly, brands that aren't. And that's concerning. I mean, I think a perfect example of this, if you go back 40 years ago, right? A franchise Blockbuster Video, right? That just didn't work, right? But you see other brands that are just kind of adopting and evolving to different things that are going.
Yeah, it's wild. And having somebody on your side that is watching the franchisors for those kinds of movement is really important before you go. I didn't have a franchise coach or a broker. I wanted to own a boxing gym. So I went and bought a boxing gym, right? Which I think is a valid approach because I believe in doing what you love and you'll never have to work a day in your life. But also, if I'd have known a lot more at the time, I would have made different decisions, I think. So having a coach would have been a benefit to me, I think.
So Ken, let's talk about a story that kind of this reminds me of. It's not related to franchising. The company that I admire very much is Netflix, because I feel like this guy, Reed Hastings, is like this visionary.
Yes.
Right? I mean, he saw, if I thought about it, like, wait a second here, how come I didn't think about sending DVDs in the mail 3 at a time? That's like genius, right? Inside of the mail. Anyone could have thought of that idea, but the genius of Reed Hastings is kind of putting on his thinking cap and knowing in 5 or 10 years that this market would just go ahead and become all about on demand and really investing that before anyone it was even on anyone else's radar. I mean, we're talking about people like Apple who have a streaming service, or companies like Amazon, right? I mean, that's just genius to me. And in a good franchise system, they're already 5 steps ahead.
Yeah, and I want to talk about the genius of Netflix for a second, because they made a big decision, a big bet to stop the delivery and move to only digital. And that was, the stock market did not like that change for a little bit, but it was the right move. It was absolutely the right move. And sometimes you got to do scary stuff in business like that. I don't know that I would have done the same thing. I probably would have tried to keep both business models up for as long as possible. I'd probably still be shipping DVDs to grandmas in the boot hills. And you got rid of that entire business model and pushed everybody over. Reminds me of Henry Ford. You're allowed to have any color car you want as long as it's black. So it's a challenging business decision to make whenever you're going to swing the finances to another business unit at 100%. Boy, that took a lot of guts to stop that. You mentioned that dedicating focused, deep work time has transformed your operations. What does that weekly strategic block look like, and how has it shaped your business?
So that's a great question. For me, frankly, no one really wants to buy a franchise or to talk about franchises first thing on Monday morning. Maybe they do, but they're so focused on their work life that this probably isn't number one on their to-do list. And so every Monday morning from 8 until 11, it's really trying my best to have my phone off and really just kind of even having inside of my list, just having things that are deep work time, right? Just things such as just really deep questions, right? Things that I don't really have the bandwidth for the rest of the week. Because you kind of get, with my situation, I talk to so many people throughout the course of the day or the week or the year that it's really easy to kind of get tactical as opposed to strategic. And things are changing all the time in my industry. And it's just really refreshing to kind of take a step back for a few hours every week and to have that time dedicated to that. And that's made a huge difference in my business.
Awesome. So having that time with no phone, I couldn't agree more. There was a time after my liver disease when I was really just getting into recovering from that I had to put my phone in a locker for an hour a day. And it gave me so much anxiety. Like, I would call my team before I went to the gym. I'm like, hey, I'm going to be at the gym for the next, I'm not going to have my phone for an hour and 10 minutes. So if you need me, I'm not going to be around. And that lasted 4 months where I'd call my team and say, hey, I'm not going to be around for this hour. I wouldn't give myself an hour of time. So it's wildly important to do that, to turn that phone off. I can't turn mine off, but I put it on do not disturb, and I have just emergency people that can break through my do not disturb. And it's really, really important. I do the same routine every day, 7 days a week until 10 a.m. And then I start deviating throughout my weeks. It tends to work for me pretty well. And I call until 10 a.m. feeding the animals. I'm balancing the checkbook and doing all that kind of fun stuff. But you demystify franchising myths, like needing $1 gazillion or rigid setups to get in. What is the most surprising myth that you hear, and how do you help people bust it?
So I think we talked about this before. People tend to think, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to spend millions of dollars. When I talk about on the low end, 125, right, to get in, I'm not talking necessarily about 125K in cash. I mean, you might have it in your retirement account. Maybe you have a home equity line of credit, but sometimes you can even get loans or, from the government or from family members. So that's kind of, and I would also argue that just because you're starting small doesn't mean that you need to end small, right? I have an acquaintance in Houston started a service business with 1 truck. Now it's an 8-figure business, right? So, I mean, you can start small in this business.
Absolutely. And even that 125, I mean, you'll need 12,500 to 24,000 to get in cash, right? Because you can get loans for the rest. And I'm assuming there's a truck in there. Right.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you don't necessarily even need a truck, right? But the thing that people, if you look at franchises, you got to pay for the IP, right? Or the franchise fee. And that's about $50,000 no matter what franchise it is.
Yeah. They're 30,000 on the very low side. And that's
Yep.
like some roofing technology stuff.
Yep.
Which are good. That's more of a licensing deal, really. If you get under 50, you're really licensing technology, I think, not buying systems on how to run your business, is what I have found. Having helped hundreds move from corporate America into franchisee ownership, what's the most common fear that you've seen, and how do you help them overcome it?
Most common fear is, frankly, it's related to money, right? Like, am I going to starve, right? Is this thing gonna, and what I would say is that for people that are looking to do that, there are a vast majority of brands now allow you to start the business semi-absentee. maybe your spouse who's actually not working right now, maybe they could go in at the beginning and then afterwards you could build it up. But I mean, I empathize with people that are just kind of worried and like, oh my gosh, I need to quit my job. I mean, I'd say the vast majority of times you don't have to do that.
Do you think they're more afraid of the money up front output, how much money they're going to make? Or do you think they're really just afraid of failing?
I think people in general are just afraid of losing their money. I think that's the big thing, right? Terrified of that. And look, what I can tell you too is that I have never been more motivated than when I started my franchise brand. It had to succeed, Ken. It was a situation where we put a mortgage on my parents' house, right? In hindsight, that was crazy. And it worked out. But I mean, I coach my candidates to think of themselves as being a silver bullet. I even go ahead and send them as a care package, something where it's literally a bullet with two little legs on it, where they put it on their shelf to remind themselves of the silver bullet, because they're the difference between success or not. Just kind of doing everything in their power to make this thing work.
And at the end of the day, your government's going to keep printing money, so they need people to earn it and spend it. Like, the system's not going to stop, right? All you got to do is show up and put in some effort and do the best you can, and you'll figure it out. I promise. You might have some bumps in the road, but they need you to make it, and they need you to spend it. So it'll keep coming. I promise. The money will keep coming forever. It will show up when you need it. In matching candidates to franchisors, what questions or tests do you use to make sure it's the right fit, so that they don't end up like someone who was a high sales but low profitability?
So look, I see this as being a match from characteristic, right? Questions like, hey, how many employees do you want? Are they blue collar or white collar, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I also see it as being a cultural fit, which is a little bit harder to kind of ascertain, right? Things such as, what do you like to do, right? What kind of gets you going? What gets you motivated? Because different brands have different cultures, right? I have some that are very sales heavy and some that are not, right? So really figuring out those things. It's not really a special sauce or like one question to ask, but really taking the time to get to know someone deeply. That really is something that I believe is a big advantage in my process. And by the way, as I mentioned, it's free. Right? That allows me to make that good match.
Absolutely. And then for the people that are listening, my best analogy there is that there's some franchisors that have the aggressive bro code, aggressive sales process. And there's others that say, hey, we want them to walk in the door and be nice and zen and calm and comfortable, and you're taking an order, not doing a sale. And if you're the kind of person that likes to take orders and not do hard press sales, that is being in that high pressure sales position, it will destroy you as a human. It will just take everything from you.
People tend to underestimate cultural fit in franchising.
And it's everything. In business, if you have people in your organization that don't fit the culture, may as well be cancer in your business. It is bad.
Culture eats strategy for breakfast.
It does. And it's some of it, and I love the startup culture is my favorite, but I love that hustle and that grind. But your book, The Franchise Lifestyle, profiles diverse paths to financial success. Which story in there resonates with you the most, and why?
Well, it's been a while, been a moment, but let's kind of go on the muck, right? There's a story about a franchisee who's in the water restoration business, and talk about muck or crap or whatever it is. I mean, I can't think of anything that's more need to have than a situation where a business or someone or a homeowner has a water event, right? Where you go ahead, your dishwasher, my friend down the street, his dishwasher exploded. His whole first floor had 4 feet of water. I mean, the point is that it's an amazing business if you can build it up. And I document that about how he was able to do this.
Wonderful. I like that. That's a good little business too. I like those.
Me too.
Looking ahead to the next decade, and in 2025, man, the next decade is going to be wild. What do you see as new frontiers in franchising, be it home-based models, new industry, or emerging entrepreneur types?
So such a great question. I wish I had a crystal ball, but what I can tell you is I think AI related is going to transform business in general. I don't believe that AI is going to take jobs or take business, but I do believe that people that understand AI are going to take away business or market share. I do really truly believe that. And so finding different businesses, the one that kind of resonates for me, it could be both brick and mortar and non-brick and mortar businesses, anything that can kind of take AI and allow that to create an advantage, whether or not it's in marketing or systems. I think that would be really fascinating to me to see where AI will take the business. At the end of the day, if you have a dog that needs their poop scooped, right? Grok or ChatGPT can't scoop that poop, right? But it could be a situation where somehow the systems are just smarter in the next 5 or 10 years. And curious to see how that goes.
I would agree with you. In 10 years, AI is not going to take our jobs, but AI and robotics is going to take every job on the planet at some point. But that's not in 10 years, not even close. There's an enormous amount of job gap in the marketplace today, at least in America and across the globe, that AI and robotics are going to fill those gaps first. And then we'll start seeing some other jobs going away. Adam, I've had a great time talking with you today. We're going to start wrapping up. If somebody wanted to reach out to you, how would they find you? And what would the first steps for them to be if they're thinking about getting into a franchise?
So I offer free 15-minute consultations, and I promise to let people know if I don't think they're a fit for franchises, right? So just go to franchisecoach.net or franchiseadam.com and just book a 15-minute chat there.
Okay. And that's totally free. Now, and folks, I'll tell you what, I've bought a franchise, and not being a fit for the franchise is like being in a toxic relationship. It's not a good thing. So knowing if you're a good fit or not could save you hundreds of thousands of dollars. No doubt about it. So take advantage of that 15-minute call at minimum, just to say, hey, is this even something I should be doing, or should I be going on my own path or stay in corporate America? It's a scary ride sometimes, and having somebody on your side, especially somebody that you don't have to pay, is pretty wild. After they've gotten the franchise and they're all in, do you walk away, or do you still support them in their journey as their first, second, and 5 years into entrepreneurship?
I set up chats with my candidates for every quarter just to kind of see what's going on and see how I can help them and support them.
Okay.
I also offer roundtables for my candidates that I facilitate, because I think that just like if you're a McDonald's and other McDonald's franchisees are the ones that create Egg McMuffins or the McFlurry, I believe that there's kind of value in having people that are brothers and sisters in arms that you can kind of, and maybe even in different industries that you can kind of bounce ideas off of.
Right. Wonderful. I love it. We're coming to the end of the show, Adam, and Diary of a CEO is my favorite podcast, and I'm going to just pull a random question from their deck of cards.
Okay.
And this question comes from David Moaz, and they're handwritten, so forgive me. Is there a time in your childhood when you could look back and think, this is the reason why I'm sitting here, and why?
Yes, I'm glad that you brought that. I mean, if I look back at the childhood, right, I actually took a lot of pride, and many of our younger listeners won't get this, but newspapers were huge in the 90s, right? And my first job was as a paper boy. And not only that, I really got a lot of enjoyment and benefit out of selling newspaper subscriptions. It was just kind of fun for me to kind of go to different houses and to solicit them. And they actually even had some sort of a contest where if you were the newspaper boy or one with a subscription that got the most, you were able to win a trip to Disneyland or Disney World. And I won it, which is great. So I just, the whole idea of going out and knocking on doors and not being afraid, even at a young age of 10, 12 years old, I wouldn't trade that experience for the world.
That's beautiful. Young entrepreneurship is so important for me.
Absolutely.
For me, it was, I had a very troubled youth, and I'd find myself in the main street of the small town that I worked at. And I was always hustling because I needed, warm places to sleep and food and stuff. So I would find these business owners, and they would put me under their wing at the pool hall, the bowling alley, the track car, all these business owners, the local pizza shop. And I would just show up and bug these men that own these businesses. And they would not always, but there's like 4 or 5 of them that would take me under their wing and show me how to do business and show me how to earn money, like soldering slot cars together for the guys, the older men that didn't want to do it. And they showed me that kind of stuff. And for me, I want to share that experience with other people on showing that there's other paths in the planet for people that want to kind of go on their own way. And if you're out there in the audience, you've got a special memory from your childhood that put you where you're at today, please share it with us. We would love to hear it in the comments. Adam, thank you so much for your time today. Do you have anything you'd like to leave the audience with?
Yeah, I mean, look, what I would say is this, that fear is the number one reason why people don't do this, right? And I'm here to change people's lives, and just give it a shot. You have nothing to lose. And many of my candidates are just blown away at things that are out in the franchising world that they didn't know existed.
There's a lot of different business models out there that you can look at and try to think about. And it can be a lot of fun. Adam, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Ken.